The Cold Night. Tauros 9 was a broken planet with no mercy in its air. The wind howled through the alleyways like hungry ghosts. Neon lights blinked weakly above cracked buildings. Below them walked Jace, a human boy with ragged clothes and tired eyes. His boots scraped against ice-covered trash. It was another cold night, too cold for anyone to survive without shelter. Jace hugged his arms tight. His stomach growled. He had 1 credit left in his pocket. 1 single credit. He could use it for food, or maybe for a little heat capsule to warm himself till morning. But then he heard something. A soft cry. Not a human cry. It was thinner, weaker, almost like the sound of a lost kitten. He followed it, carefully, eyes scanning the shadows near a pile of broken machinery. He saw her, a small alien girl, curled up, shivering. Her silver skin looked blue from the cold. Her arms wrapped around her knees, her eyes half closed. She looked like she hadn't eaten for days. She wore nothing warm, just thin scraps of clothing. Her feet were bare. Her lips were cracked. Her hands trembled without control. Jace stepped closer. She flinched. She tried to scoot away, but she had no energy left. She couldn't speak. No translator chip, just fear in her glowing, violet eyes. Jace looked down at her. She was young, maybe his age, maybe younger. Not a threat, not dangerous, just scared and freezing. He pulled off his jacket and dropped it over her. She grabbed it like it was life itself. She held it tightly, trying to curl into its warmth. Still watching him with wide eyes, Jace sat beside her. The metal ground was icy. He opened his credit tab. The screen flashed. 1 credit remaining. He sighed. Then he bought the heat capsule. It hissed and activated a warm glow, spread from it. He gently placed it near her chest. She blinked, then blinked again. Her body slowly stopped shaking. Her breath became less shallow. She looked at him. No words. But something in her gaze changed, like she was asking, why? Jace leaned back, against the wall. He didn't say anything. He just watched the sky. Dirty clouds covered the stars. This planet had no dreams, only survivors. The girl moved a little closer. Her small hand touched the edge of his sleeve. Then she rested her head on his shoulder. Her body was light, like she hadn't eaten for a long time. Jace didn't push her away. He let her rest. He whispered softly, "You're safe now. I don't know who you are, but you're safe. I'll keep you safe, even if I have nothing." Didn't understand the words, but she felt the meaning. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in who knows how long she slept. Truly slept. Not in fear, not in pain, but in the arms of a human boy who had nothing but still gave her everything. Somewhere. In the distance, drones flew overhead. A camera lens clicked silently. A signal was sent. Her face, her presence had been found, but Jace didn't know, and she didn't care. Because in that moment, in that cold night, she was not just a forgotten girl. On the street, she was someone, and someone had chosen to care for her. The girl who didn't speak. The sun never rose on Tauros 9. Only the lights of broken towers flickered through the smoke-filled air. Morning was just a dull gray sky. Jace opened, his eyes slowly. His back ached from the metal ground, but the warmth beside him reminded him why he stayed. The alien girl was still sleeping. Her body curled tightly beneath his jacket. The heat capsule had gone cold, but she hadn't moved far from his side. Her breathing was steady. her fingers still lightly holding his arm like she was afraid he would disappear. Jace watched her. She looked peaceful now, but the bruises on her neck and arms told another story. Something had hurt her. Something cruel. He wanted to ask her, "Who did this to you?" But he already knew she couldn't answer. He tried again anyway. "What's your name? Where are you from? Can you understand me?" She stared at him. Not scared this time. Just blank. She opened her mouth slightly, but no sound came. Not even a whisper. Only her eyes spoke, and they spoke of pain. Jay stood up. He stretched his arms and looked around. They couldn't stay here. Not out in the open. Drones flew low in the mornings. Scavenger gangs hunted weak targets, and he didn't know how many people had seen her face. He helped her stand. She stumbled, her legs weak. She leaned against him, and he led her step by step. They walked down a narrow alley, past broken market stalls, past hungry eyes and silent watchers. Jace led her to an old storage room under a dead store. He kicked the rusted door open. Inside it was dark, but it was hidden safe. He pulled some scrap together to make a place to sit, then gave her a half piece of dried ration bar. She held it carefully, sniffed it, then took a small bite. Her hands shook like she had forgotten how to eat. As she chewed, he sat across from her. He didn't talk, just watched her quietly, trying to guess who she really was. Suddenly, she dropped the ration bar and covered. Her ears, her body shaking again. Jace looked around, then heard it too. A drone high above flying low and slow. Scanning, he pulled her close, covered her with a ragged tarp, held her tightly. The drone passed without noticing. Its red light faded into the sky. But the fear in her didn't leave. Even after the silence returned, she held on to him. Breathing hard like she expected death at any moment, Jace waited until she calmed, then gently pulled away. He looked at her eyes. "Who's looking for you? Why? Are you so afraid?" Still no answer. He touched the translator chip behind his own ear, pointed to her. She didn't have one. No wonder she couldn't speak. No wonder she couldn't understand. She was completely alone in every way. Later, Jace went out, alone. He needed answers. He asked around the black market quietly, tried not to draw attention. But a strange girl with silver skin and violet eyes was easy to remember. One vendor squinted at him, said he'd seen someone like that 2 nights ago. Dragged through the lower tunnels with shock cuffs by men with strange emblems. Jace felt a chill. The girl hadn't just run away. She had escaped from someone who wanted to keep her locked back in the storage room. He found her curled up, still awake, still watching the door. He sat beside her, didn't tell her what he learned, didn't want her to be afraid again. She leaned her head on his shoulder, like it was the only safe place left. And maybe it was, but above the city, inside a hidden station, a transmission was received. A blurry image. The girl wrapped in a human boy's arms. A voice hissed through the screen. "Find her. Bring her back. Kill the human if needed. Wanted by the rich." Rain fell on the city like oil heavy and dark, washing nothing clean. Jace pulled the tarp tighter over the broken door, trying to keep the water from dripping onto the girl. She sat quietly, holding a scrap of cloth like it was precious. She had not spoken, not smiled, but she stayed close to him now, never more than a few steps away. They had survived 2 days hiding in the old storage room. Jay scavenged food and heat while she waited, always with those silent glowing eyes, watching the door. He had named her Leary, just to have something to call her. She didn't respond, but when he said Leary, she didn't look away. He thought maybe, just maybe, they could stay hidden until things cooled down. He was wrong. A bounty alert flashed across a street vendor's screen. A low-res picture of a silver-skinned alien girl. Large purple reward tag blinking beside her face. No name, just a message. Find her immediately. Do not engage. If armed, property of house. Tixera Jace froze. When he saw it, he looked around. 3 others near the stall had seen it too. All their eyes narrowed. One even touched the handle of his blade. Jace slipped away into the crowd, his heart pounding. He had just become a target too. Not for stealing, not for fighting, but for helping the wrong girl. He ducked into a side alley, ran the long way back. When he reached the storage room, he was gasping for air. But Leary was there, still waiting, still watching. He knelt beside her, his voice low. We have to move, now. People are looking for you. Bad people. Very rich people. She tilted her head, didn't understand. But she stood up and took his hand. They left everything behind, moved through tunnels and drains, past acid pools and sleeping tech beasts, deeper and deeper into the underbelly of the city. Jace found an old shipyard half buried in collapsed metal. Rusty wreckage filled with shadows. But quiet, safe for now, Leary sat on a broken wing. She looked up at the ceiling, like it was a sky she had never seen. Jace sat beside her. He pulled a dented metal tablet from his bag, opened a hidden feed, typed the bounty code into a hacker app. He needed more than rumors. He needed truth. The screen flashed. Classified files appeared. Stolen documents from inside house. Tixera. His blood ran cold as he read. Leary was not just a girl. She was an experiment. A hybrid creation made from several royal alien bloodlines, built to be stronger, smarter, faster and loyal. But something had gone wrong. She had escaped during a lab transfer. No one knew how. Now House Tixera wanted her back. Not for love, not for justice, but for control. She was their future weapon, and they would pay any price to own her again. Jace looked at her sitting quietly, still hugging his jacket. She didn't seem like a weapon. She seemed like a lost child. But now he understood why her silence was so deep. Why she flinched at every noise. She had been treated like a thing, not a person. Suddenly, the ground shook. A blast echoed through the tunnels. Jace jumped to his feet. He peeked out of the broken doorway drone. Sleek black scanning lights on full power. It flew slow, searching, hunting. He turned to Leary. We need to run now. Again. But she didn't move. She was staring at the wall, at a strange glowing mark on the metal. Her eyes wide, her hands trembling. She reached out, touched the mark, and something strange happened. The metal shifted, glowed like it recognized her. Jace stared. What was this place? Was it hers? Was it a memory? Before he could ask, the drone spotted them. Its lights turned red. An alarm echoed. Leary jumped back, her body still shaking, but her eyes now held something new. Fire. Jace grabbed her hand and they ran. As footsteps echoed from above, as more drones began to descend as bounty hunters closed in from every direction, he held her hand tighter and she didn't let go. The silent girl, once freezing in the street, was now the most hunted being in the system. And the boy who gave her warmth had just become the target of a powerful house. Memory. Sparks. The air inside the old ship was filled with dust and forgotten heat. The mark Leary touched still glowed faintly on the metal wall. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Jace stared at it, not understanding. But Leary was frozen in place. Her hand, still resting on the symbol. Then something changed. Her knees gave out. She collapsed to the ground, her eyes wide open. But she wasn't seeing the room anymore. She was somewhere else. Someone else. Jace knelt beside her. Leary, are you okay? Say something. Please. But she didn't answer. Her body trembled. Her lips moved. Not speaking. Just breathing hard. Then suddenly her eyes filled with tears. A soft sound escaped her throat. A sound that broke the silence between them. She whispered. Nira Jace blinked, the first word she had ever said. He didn't know what it meant. But it sounded like a name. Maybe someone she had lost. Leary looked up. Her eyes no longer empty. They held pain. Deep pain. And fragments of memory. She touched her own chest. Then her neck, then pointed to the glowing mark and whispered again. Tixara Jace understood now. The glowing mark was from the lab, a symbol of the house that built her. This was not just an old ship. This was one of the cargo haulers that once carried her. Maybe the same one she escaped from. She stood slowly, her legs still shaking, but her voice a little stronger now. She said, Lab chains. Sister. Gone Jace felt his throat tighten. He moved closer. You had a sister? Did they take her too? Did she escape with you, Leary? Shook her head. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She pointed at her heart, then crossed her arms like holding someone small. Then made a breaking motion. Jace didn't need words to understand. Her sister had died. Maybe in the same place she had escaped, or from. He reached out, touched her shoulder, and for the first time, Leary didn't flinch. She leaned into his hand, closed her eyes, and whispered again, Nira. They sat in silence, just the two of them. In the quiet ship, surrounded by broken machines and broken pasts. Later, Jace explored the ship while Leary rested. He found a dusty command terminal miraculously still working. He tapped into the logs. Most were corrupted, but one file played. A video feed inside a clean white lab. He saw cages, metal walls, and Leary smaller. Thinner, wearing a glowing collar. She stood beside another girl who looked just like her. Only her eyes were green instead of violet. They were holding hands. A scientist walked in, pulled the other girl away. Leary fought, screamed. But the shock collar lit up. She dropped to the ground, twitching. The video cut out. Jace closed the feed, his hand shaking. So it was true. She had been a prisoner, an experiment. A victim. And now the same people who did this wanted her back. To continue what they started. He returned to Leary. She looked up at him, saw his face, and knew he had seen it. She reached for his hand, held it tightly, then said, No cage. No go back. Promise. Jace nodded. I promise. No one's taking you. Not while I'm breathing, but far above in orbit. A ship arrived, black and sharp like a blade. Inside it, an armored woman with silver eyes stared at a screen. The girl has reawakened. She said. The symbol worked. She's remembering. Another voice answered. Should we move in? Kill the boy? Retrieve the subject? The woman smiled coldly. Not yet. Let her remember more. Then she'll come to us herself. Back on the surface. Leary stood in the ship's doorway, looking out into the night. The city still glowed, still roared with life. But she didn't fear it anymore. Jay stood behind her, ready to move, ready to fight, because now they weren't just running from the past. They were walking toward a truth that someone wanted to bury forever. The chase begins. The night air had changed. It was no longer just cold. It was sharp like a warning. Jace felt it in his bones as they stepped out of the rusted ship. The shadows seemed deeper, the streets quieter than they should be. Leary stayed close. Behind him, she didn't speak much. But now she watched everything. Her eyes scanned rooftops, alleys, moving shapes, as if she could feel the danger coming. They moved through the lower streets, past the steam vents and broken neon. They were heading to an old contact Jace knew. A tech smuggler who owed him a favor. He needed new IDs, new faces, maybe even off-world passage. But they never made it there. A sharp whistling sound like metal cutting through air. Then a bolt slammed into the wall next. To Jace, he spun around. Leary pulled him down just as a second shot came. Faster this time. It would have hit his chest if she hadn't moved. Two figures dropped from the rooftop, one with a plasma bow, the other with steel arms, bounty hunters, and they weren't amateurs. Jace grabbed Leary's hand and ran. No time to fight. They darted through the side alley, jumped over a rail, slid under a pipe. Footsteps thundered behind them. The hunters shouted something, but Jace didn't stop. He could feel the heat of their weapons close behind. They turned into a tunnel. Then suddenly Leary stopped. She pushed him to the side and raised her hand. Jace turned just in time to see her eyes glow. Bright, violet. The air shimmered. The tunnel lights blinked. And then, the bounty hunters dropped to the ground screaming. Their weapons shorted out. Their eyes bleeding light. Their bodies twitching. Leary stood completely still, like something inside her had just awakened. Her hand slowly lowered, her breath heavy. She turned to Jace and whispered, "No more cages." Jace stared at her. "You did that? How? What was that?" She looked down, like she wasn't sure herself, then said one word, "Voice." They ran again. No time to rest. No time to think. They made it to an old safe house Jace had, used years ago. It was dark, quiet, hidden between two collapsed towers. He sealed the door behind them and collapsed to the floor. Leary sat beside him. She looked tired, not from the run, but from what she had done. Jace turned to her. "You said voice. Is it a weapon? Is that what they made you for?" She nodded, then touched her throat, then touched her head, then spread her fingers like an explosion. Jace understood. Her voice wasn't just sound. It was power. It could break machines, break minds, maybe even more. He sat in silence, trying to take it all in. The girl he found freezing on the street was now something the entire system feared. And yet she looked at him with the same soft eyes like she was still just a girl. Still scared. Still searching for something. He moved closer. "You're not a weapon. Not to me. You're not something to use. You're someone to protect." Leary leaned into his side. She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. Outside, the city lit up with new alerts. The failed hunters had sent a signal before falling. Now every merc, every scavenger, every tracker would know exactly where to find her. But something else was happening too, in a forgotten part of the resistance network. An old rebel general saw the alert. He read the code behind the bounty. He whispered, "Subject 0. She lives." He picked up a dusty comm unit and called the only man who could reach them in time. Back in the safe house, Leary stood near the cracked window. Watching the stars above, she raised her hand to the glass. As if reaching for something far away, Jace stood beside her, his voice low. "We have one chance. We need to leave this city before they find us again." Leary turned to him, eyes glowing softly. then nodded. For the first time, she spoke a full sentence, not broken. Not afraid. Let's go together. I trust you. Jace smiled, tired but full of fire. Then let's survive. Rise of the Broken. The safe house was no longer safe. Jace knew that the moment 3 black drones passed overhead. Silent, slow, watching, they had to move again. But this time they had nowhere left to run. Leary followed him quietly, her violet eyes calm, her steps soft, but her body ready. She had stopped trembling. The fear that once held her was gone. Now she looked like someone, waiting for the storm. Not hiding from it, Jace took her through the old drain routes, tunnels forgotten by the city, places where the desperate lived, where law and power did not reach. He had heard stories of broken fighters, of rebels who once tried to stop House Tixara. All failed, all scattered, but a few still breathed. They found the old one in a cave beneath the trash mountains, a man with metal legs and scars over both eyes. He didn't need to see to know who Leary was. He touched the mark on her neck, then spoke. So the ghost child lives. We thought you were dust. Long ago, Jace stood between them. Who are you? What do you know about her? The old man smiled. Not with joy, but with pain. I was one of the guards when she escaped. They killed my squad after that, Saeed. We let a weapon walk. Free Leary stepped forward. She reached out, touched the man's chest, then whispered, "Sorry." The man paused, then nodded slowly. You were just a child. We were just pawns. Jace looked around. The cave had people. Not many, but enough broken warriors, exiles, old hackers, scars on every face. He turned to the man. Can you help us? We need to disappear or fight back. The man didn't answer right away. He looked at Leary. You are the reason they stopped using voice. Weapons. You destroyed their main lab when you screamed. Even as a child, you made walls fall. She blinked. Memories flickering again. But clearer now. She remembered the lights, the chains, the fire, and the silence after. I don't want to run anymore. She said softly. They took everything. Now they take no more. The old man nodded, then stood, his metal legs groaning. Then fight we shall in the days that followed. Jace trained with the others, learned how to move unseen, how to set traps, how to shoot, how to survive. Leary trained too, but not with weapons. She sat in silence, listening, learning control. Her voice was powerful, too powerful. One wrong whisper could melt steel, could destroy minds. She had to learn how to hold it back. Until the right moment, Jace watched her one night. Her eyes closed, her hands resting on her knees. Soft glowing symbols floated around her lips. He couldn't read them, but he felt them, like wind that had a soul. When she opened her eyes, he smiled. You're not the same girl I found in the street. She smiled back, not fully but enough, and said, You made me feel real again. News of their plan spread quietly. The rebels would attack the outer gate of the Tixara data core, not to win, but to open a path for Jace and Leary. They had to get inside, destroy the source of her tracking signal, erase her number, wipe her from the system. Only then would the bounty lose power. The night before the mission, Jace couldn't sleep. He sat beside Leary, his voice low. We might not come back. You know that, right? Leary leaned against him, her voice even lower. I'm not afraid. Not anymore. Because if I fall free. Jace took her hand. Then, let's make them fall with us. warmth in the fire. The ground shook as the first blast hit. The outer gate exploded into smoke and light. Rebel fighters poured through. Screaming, shooting, falling, Jace and Leary moved in the opposite direction. Through the hidden passage under the ruins. A tunnel only known to the oldest rebels. Their boots splashed through water, their breaths quiet but fast. There was no turning back now. Leary walked without fear. Her steps, slow, controlled. The glowing marks around her neck, now pulsing like fire under skin. Jace held the stolen access key in one hand, a makeshift blaster in the other. His heart raced, but not from fear. From purpose, they reached the main lab. The place where it all began. The walls were white, too clean, too cold. Leary froze in the doorway. Her eyes locked on a room full of empty cages. Cages her size, she whispered. This is where I was made. Jace touched her shoulder. Then we end it here. They stepped inside the control room, a massive tower of screens machines, humming pipes, full of code and pain. Jace inserted the key. The screens blinked. A voice crackled from the ceiling. Unauthorized entry subject. 0 detected. Security override active doors slammed shut. Red lights flashed. And then she appeared. The woman from the black, ship eyes, silver skin, like ice, dressed in armor made of bone and wire. She looked at Leary. My creation returns. You were supposed to save our future, not destroy it. Leary stepped forward. I am not your tool. The woman smiled. A cold, cruel thing you were, made for obedience. Even your voice belongs to us. Jace raised the blaster. Back off. But the woman moved faster. She threw him across the room with a single motion. He crashed into the wall. Fell didn't get up. Leary ran to him. Blood on his forehead. His eyes half open. He whispered, Use it. Use your voice. She turned her face calm. Her eyes glowing bright like stars ready to burn. The woman raised her hand, but Leary raised her voice. No scream. No cry. Just a word. Enough. The sound ripped through the air. Through the walls, through every system in the lab. Glass shattered machines sparked. The woman fell to her knees, her armor breaking, her mind cracking. Leary kept speaking. Soft, but full of fire. I was born in chains, but I choose my own ending. The walls began to collapse. Fire danced across the wires. The tracking systems melted. Her name erased from every server. Her number gone forever. She ran back to Jace. Tried to lift him. He groaned, eyes barely open. You did it. He whispered, You're free. The ceiling cracked. Above them, Leary pulled him close, held him tight. The fire moved faster now, eating everything. A sidewall blew out. The rebels had reached the lab. 2 fighters rushed in, lifted. Jace pulled Leary. They escaped through the flames, through the smoke, into the cold night air. Later, Jace woke in a safe house far from the city. His head bandaged, his chest aching. Leary sat beside him, her hand wrapped around his. She looked different, not just outside but inside. She was still and strong. He smiled. So you sleep in my arms now, huh? Leary leaned down, rested her forehead against his. You gave your last credit, now I give you everything. He laughed, soft, then closed his eyes again. Outside, the rebels cheered. The bounty vanished from every screenhouse Tixara had. Fallen. Its labs destroyed. Its secrets burned. And in a quiet corner of a broken world, a girl once made in silence, and a boy who gave everything sat side by side. No longer hunted. No longer alone. Just 2 hearts. warming each other in the firelight of freedom.